My 60-year-old grandma is in an online relationship. She still uses my photo. When I went to see her after the college entrance examination, she asked me to go on a blind date for her. Darling, Grandma specially found this one for you. He's over 1.8 meters tall, has 8-pack ABS, is a sports student, and is very sweet-tongued. He always calls me baby. As she spoke, Grandma pulled out a screenshot of an avatar and showed it to me. The man in the photo has a refreshing crew cut, deep features, a high nose bridge, and a slightly upturned corner of his mouth. Looking at the camera, he is my favorite bad boy handsome type. The refusal on the tip of my tongue couldn't be uttered. I decided to meet this sports student. Grandma. Really not possible. I'm socially anxious and scared. Darling. Look. This is the avatar of that kid. It's really him. I don't. It's not impossible either. You agreed to meet at the Central Garden, right? I will be there on time at 10 tomorrow. There's no way. The person in this photo fully meets my ideal type in all aspects. The refusal on the tip of my tongue turned into an eager agreement. Just like this. I was seduced by a handsome photo and lost my mind for a moment. I agreed to Grandma and pretended to be her to meet her game CP. Grandma reminded me, darling. Tomorrow you wear that little white dress with a slit down to below your waist at the back. Because my game avatar is me wearing a little white dress. Meeting a netizen for the first time. And it's still Grandma's netizen. It's a lie to say I'm not nervous. The Central Garden in the morning is bustling with people, and I feel a little sense of security. When I walked to the fountain pool, the first thing I noticed was a tall and long-legged boy leaning against a pillar. He was looking down at his phone, with slender fingers and distinct knuckles. As someone who is both a face control and a hand control, I was instantly captivated. I tittied my hair and quickened my pace and walked forward. I whispered out his game ID, the invincible tiger tyrant. The boy raised his head. His long and upturned eyetails seemed to have hooks that made my heartbeat accelerate unconsciously. He asked in a low voice, "Harmony brings prosperity?" I nodded and silently shed tears in my heart. Why did Grandma change my game name to be so old-fashioned? But he, invincible tiger tyrant, has no right to despise me. Such a handsome person is actually a middle to non-mainstream. It's hot. Let's go have a drink or two. What? My favorability drops by 1,000. Does he want to take a girl to drink when they meet for the first time? He's definitely a scumbag. But Tiger Tyrant took my umbrella and kept a distance from me that wouldn't cause physical contact. He held the umbrella for me neither too close nor too far. When he spoke, his face turned slightly sideways. His smooth jawline made me want to trace it with my hand. My favorability increased by 500. I pretended to be coy and said, "That. I don't know how to drink." Tiger Tyrant raised his eyebrows and smiled. With a stretch of his hand, he pointed to the milk tea shop we were approaching. "I mean to drink here. A cup of watermelon bubble tea." I gulped down half of it into swallows. Sure enough. It's only comfortable to stay in an air-conditioned room in summer. I relaxed a bit. Tiger Tyrant glanced at me and asked me, "Harmony brings prosperity. Can we exchange real names?" Harmony brings prosperity? Who? Is he on the phone? It took me 2 seconds to react. Only then did I remember that he was calling my game ID. Harmony brings prosperity. I couldn't hold back my laughter. "I'm Fiona. What about you? Tiger Tyrant?" I deliberately mentioned his online name. Sure enough, he was also amused by me. He touched his nose and looked a little shy. "Leo. That's my name." Coming out of the milk tea shop. Next door is the shopping mall. Leo suggested going to watch a movie. I nodded in agreement. The air conditioning in the movie theater was very low. When the actors on the screen made a fool of themselves and the whole audience laughed, I sneezed because of the cold. Soon, a shirt was handed over from beside me. The bright light of the big screen flickered on Leo's face. He opened his mouth to speak, but made no sound. Judging from his lip movements, He was saying, "Put it on." My gaze uncontrollably shifted from his face to his upper body wearing only a white vest. As expected of a sports student. I didn't notice when he was wearing clothes. But only when he took off his clothes did I realize that his biceps are quite strong. However, should I say that I can see that he is deliberately bulging his muscles? My gaze slid down further and landed on his abdomen, remembering that Grandma said he had 8-pack abs. Through the thin and close-fitting vest, it seemed that I could indeed see vaguely distinct muscles. At this time, the movie's protagonist entered an emotional and melancholic stage. The entire audience in the movie theater was as silent as the protagonist. The sound of me swallowing saliva was particularly obvious. So embarrassing. Leo must have heard it. His Adam's apple moved. And his head turned slightly. It seemed that he was about to turn his head. I quickly sat up straight and adjusted my gaze, pretending to watch the movie seriously and controlling my peripheral vision not to glance at him. After the movie ended, I quickly fled the scene on the pretext that Grandma was waiting for me to have a meal at home. Of course, I didn't forget to return his clothes before leaving. When I got home, Grandma came forward curiously and asked me how it was. I held Grandma's arm and shook it, then pressed my face against hers. "Grandma, I've decided. Your future grandson-in-law has to be him." But as soon as I said this, Grandma's expression changed greatly. She waved her hands vigorously and said, "You are only 18 years old. Darling, don't easily say that someone is the only one. Grandma supports you in changing to this one today, and loving that one tomorrow." Grandma must have been a slag girl when she was young. I touched my nose. I have been temporarily charmed by Leo's mild beauty, and have no intention of thinking about anyone else. Grandma hasn't exchanged contact information other than in the game with Leo. To have another encounter with Leo. I logged into my game account. As soon as I went online, I was invited to form a team by the invincible Tiger Tyrant. Entering the team interface, I saw a message from Leo. "Baby, take a support hero and follow me. I'll take you to dominate." This person is a bit different in reality than online. Probably the internet will bring out people's middle to tendencies. I still like his appearance in reality. He seems a bit aloof but also mature and caring. While waiting for the game to load, I looked at the couple icon of me and Leo at level 50 and was a bit stunned. Why is the level so high? Grandma peeked at the two heart icons and said inferently, "The intimacy was brushed by spending money. The money spent will be deducted from your lucky money." How can you use my lucky money without my consent? But when I thought that Grandma had found such a handsome man for me, it seemed not unacceptable. 6 minutes into the game, I looked at my record of 081 and Leo's record of 110 and fell into deep thought. To create the illusion that I'm not so bad, I ran back and forth in place for 2 laps and successfully turned myself into 09. I typed, "Sorry. The network is stuck today." Leo, who had been motionless since just now, also with a record of 111, sent a message, "Network is stuck. Sorry." Our messages almost appeared on the team public screen at the same time. Other teammates mocked one after another. What are 2 actors pretending to be? During the sprint period of Senior 3, I was addicted to studying for too long, and I really couldn't keep up. "Grandma, it's your turn." Grandma had already given me several slaps while watching the battle on the side. Checking the grass, removing debuffs and blocking damage. "You don't know any of these at all." While muttering, Grandma took the phone. Leo on the other side was probably really stuck with the network. As soon as he cooperated with Grandma, he really started killing wildly. At the end of the game, a message came from the other side. "Baby, I have to go do my homework." Along with a crying expression and a broken heart expression, Grandma typed and replied quickly with her fingers, "Go, kid. Study hard and make progress every day." Why do I think there's something wrong everywhere in this conversation? "Grandma, do you always talk like this with him?" Grandma was clicking the screen frantically with her fingers while answering me distractedly. "Yes. This kid is very obedient. I always feel that the tone of Grandma's typing and communicating with him is very much like how she coaxed me when I was a child. Something is wrong. The person on the other side is also wrong. After the game ended, I added contact information with Leo. After chatting for 2 days, he invited me to go to the amusement park again and sent a message. I will bring a child with me. Although I knew it was impossible, I still teased. Your child can already go to the amusement park? Leo? Leo, this is the youngest one. There are 3 other children who have gone to interest classes. The joke was caught. And I held my phone and laughed. See you at the amusement park entrance tomorrow. Somewhat unexpectedly, when waiting for the car at the entrance of the community the next day, I ran into Leo by chance. He was on the other side of the road and obviously noticed me too. After looking at me for a while with narrowed eyes, he walked over. Before he could speak, my was gently pulled. I looked down. A little boy about 10 years old, wearing a dog-shaped sun hat and carrying a small school bag, was looking at me with a cool and sullen expression. Woman. Good morning. Ah? Good. Good morning. Leo reached out and grabbed the small school bag, pulled the child away, and smiled at me with the corners of his mouth curled up and said, "Don't pay attention to him. He watches TV dramas and learns to be a domineering president every day." The child snorted from his nose and said to Leo with a sullen face, "Be nicer. Everything you have now is given by me." Leo reached out and flicked the child's forehead. "Don't talk nonsense outside." I couldn't help laughing as I stood aside. This child was quite funny when he talked. After a while, the child raised his hand and looked at his smartwatch and said, "The taxi I called has arrived. Let's go." Woman. You sit in the back row with me. Under Leo's disapproving gaze, I suppressed a smile and sat in the back seat with the child. The child peeked at me several times sideways. I noticed that the corners of his mouth were curling out, and he was secretly happy. When we arrived at the amusement park, the sun was a bit hot. As soon as we got out of the car, we could feel a wave of heat. Leo was holding a large umbrella and walking behind me and the child, blocking the sun for us. "Little friend. Are you hot? Sister will go buy you a drink." "I'm not a little friend. Call me Felix." The child pouted, took off his school bag and put it in my hand. "Go sit over there and wait for a while. I'll go buy you an ice cream." He's so good. No wonder he grew up watching domineering presidents. Leo snorted behind him, grabbed the long tail at the back of Felix's hat and made the person turn around in place. "You take Auntie and sit on the chair, and wait obediently. I'll go buy you water." Felix let out a cry and snatched back his tail. Angrily, he lifted off his hat and said with messy hair all over his head, "You're so embarrassing when you pull me like this. Outside. You have to give me 3. 3 points is not enough. 30 points of face." My attention was on the other side. "What do you mean? I'm so young and beautiful. Why am I not sister but auntie?" Leo was suppressing Felix's flailing hands and forcing the sun hat back on while looking at me and saying, "This is my corner. The score can't be messed up." After saying this meaningful sentence, Leo went to line up to buy water, although he walked very fast. His red ears were clearly seen by me. Felix pulled me to sit on the chair nearby, and quietly came over and said to me, "He is very poor. The money for buying water now is all transferred to him by me. Don't be deceived by his sweet words and lose your head. At such a young age, he has a rich vocabulary." Do you transfer money to him to spend?" Felix nodded coolly. "I have a lot of pocket money. I can buy you anything you want to eat. But if you choose my little uncle, he can only take you to beg for food." I had a guess in my mind and started to fish for information. "Well? But I didn't know you before. Why should I choose you?" That's of course because he is the game CPR with. At such a young age, he uses my photo to deceive people. Leo came from behind and handed us water and cotton candy. "Over there." Felix got angry again. "You said before going out that this is a secret and can't be told." Such a sudden revelation makes me so embarrassed. Leo ignored him and pointed to the carousel on his own. Let's go. There are fewer people here. Let's play this one first. My guess in my heart was confirmed. I nodded and suddenly realized. No wonder. I always feel that when you play games, you are different from in real life. Seeing the carousel, Felix immediately forgot that he was still angry. He took my hand and asked me to sit side by side with him. Still looking like a little master, he commanded Leo, "Little uncle, don't get on the horse this round. Take pictures for us outside. I'll give you $5 more when we go back." Leo unceremoniously carried him to the back row and sat on the horse next to me. As the carousel started to turn, I turned to look at Leo. He was also looking at me. His eyebrows and eyes looked even deeper when backlit. Being stared at fixedly by such a deep gaze, I had the illusion of being deeply loved. I couldn't stand it anymore. My heart started to beat faster again, and my face couldn't help but get hot. I couldn't help but want to make the situation awkward to relieve my sudden nervousness. So, when we played games together before, was the record of 111 achieved by you? Leo lowered his head and laughed. He didn't answer directly. Felix, who had been leaning forward to listen to our conversation clearly, mocked from behind. That one was also scored by me. Little uncle is poor and not good. He's not as good as me. After taking Felix to play all the amusement park rides suitable for children, after a whole day, all I could think about was either women or me. This kid Felix's speech habit is really brainwashing. I still didn't find a chance to explain that it wasn't me who was his game CP, but my 60-year-old grandma. Should I directly say that grandma is doing this to find a man for her granddaughter? As a beneficiary. I don't have the nerve to say this. Or if I don't say it, will they misunderstand that my grandma is disrespectful of her old age and deliberately deceives the feelings of young men online? When we went back together, Leo sent Felix to the entrance of the community and asked him to go home first. Then he turned to me and said, "Let's take a walk and stroll around again." I nodded. I wanted to take the opportunity to explain clearly to Leo while Felix was not around. However, Felix held onto the door and refused to go in. The little dog ears on his hat were manually pressed down by him. The small eyes looking at me were very resentful, making me feel a little guilty for a moment. I scolded myself in my heart. How could I make such a cute child feel wronged? Woman, you already know that I am your true love. My little bit of guilt disappeared in an instant. Felix went home with a sullen face. Before leaving, he threatened to impose an economic blockade on Leo, walking towards the outside street. On the way I asked Leo curiously, "Do you really spend a child's money?" Leo glanced at me, thought for a while and said, "It's only temporary. It will be fine when my dad's anger subsides. I won't let you suffer from poverty with me." Of course I know that their family is not poor, although Felix's home and grandma's home are only separated by a road. However, on our side are high-rise residences. On the Wu family's side are single-family villas. I'm not worried about this. No, even if you are poor yourself, it has nothing to do with me. The green trees on the side of the road are thick, and the cicadas are deafening, while my heart is pounding. Then will you give me a chance? Give me a chance to be related to you. This man, why is he so good at speaking? I couldn't catch the direct hit and walked forward with my head down. When passing by the fruit store, Leo stopped, went in and picked a bunch of expensive imported fruits. I watched from the side. When it was time to pay, he took out his phone and put it back. He looked at me with a frank face and said, "There is no money in my phone. Pay for me." This man deliberately said those charming words. Wouldn't it be that he wants to use his male charm to confuse me and let me spend money for him? Looking at Leo carrying a bag full of high-quality fruits and walking leisurely next to me, and looking at the account balance of several hundred yuan that I just scanned out, my heart ached a little. It's not worth it. With this money, I can go out and order a male model, and still be able to touch him twice. Leo's suppressed laughter came. Huh? Do you want to do it here? I came to my senses and realized that I had unconsciously said what was on my mind. Immediately, I was so embarrassed that I wanted to scratch my ears and cheeks on the spot. I didn't mean that. Leo still couldn't stop laughing. While laughing, he took off a pendant from behind his neck and handed it to me. This is a collateral. When I cheat Felix's pocket money and go back, I will pay you back. The lotus white, warm and moist full moon-shaped jade pendant is obviously a good thing. I refused. Forget it. I'm afraid I can't afford to lose it. In the end, I didn't succeed in refusing. Leo directly put the jade pendant on my neck. Tied like this, I won't be afraid of losing it. I always feel that his words have a double meaning. Leo sent me downstairs to my house, and even gave me the bag of expensive fruits he bought and asked me to take it home. In this way, it seems that I have taken all the advantages. As soon as I entered the house, I received a message from Leo. Some words can't be said face to face. Can you allow me to pursue you? My love at first sight. So cheesy. However, I seem to be a little into this. I can't help but grin from ear to ear. However, I always feel that I have forgotten something. Oh right. I forgot to explain that Grandma is Felix's game CP. Unexpectedly, my poor memory caused me to get into trouble later. In August, it was very hot. I stayed at home every day with air conditioning and watermelon. Not going out. Leo couldn't invite me out to play. So he pulled me to play games together. On Grandma's mobile phone. I had just finished a game with my account logged in. Leo came online. Grandma consciously pulled him into the team room. Clicked to start matching. And then handed me the phone. Darling. Among these 3 people here, they are all backups chosen by Grandma for you. Each one has its own merits. And they are all added from people nearby. It's very convenient to meet in reality. What? I looked at the game loading interface. Everyone had a 50-level social relationship with me. Grandma might be afraid of a mishap and thoughtfully turned off the display of my intimacy icon. But she didn't consider Leo's side, where the icon display wasn't turned off. As soon as we entered the game, a low-pitched male voice with a nasal tone came from my 50-level Best IE's microphone. Babe, why haven't you looked for me to play recently? My 50-level sworn friend also turned on the microphone. Have some shame. Brother. Whose babe are you? Then the bubbly voice of my 50-level bro came online. Baby. Guard the middle with me first. Leo? Me. They are all brothers. The low-pitched male voice spoke again. Is this the elementary school kid brother you said you're in a couple relationship with? Is it summer vacation for your brother? Leo's character remained still for about a minute. And then started operating again. Woman. I didn't expect you to be so capable of breaking my heart. This is Felix logging in. Oh my god. Even playing a game can turn into a battlefield. I quickly threw the phone to Grandma. Grandma. You've killed me. Grandma took the phone and operated for a while. I watched as she sent out one green with jealousy talk after another. The situation suddenly became harmonious. Everyone was made by Grandma to seem like he is the main one. Except for Leo, who has already given Felix the right to play the game. He must be peeking at the screen and labeling me as a slag girl 100 times. Seeing me looking distressed. Grandma still didn't forget to give me advice during the game break. You can't even handle such a small scene. How will you play with boys? Feelings in the future. This suspicious pause makes me suspect that Grandma added the last 3 words to maintain the image of an elder. I heard that when my grandpa was young, he struggled in my grandma's fish pond for several years and drove away all the other fish before taking the top position. I didn't listen to her. I ran into the room and took out my charging phone, planning to send a message to Leo to explain. Just as I saw several unread messages from him. So I have so many competitors? I am a pure love warrior and firmly oppose polygamy. I can't believe it. Sister. I hereby crown you as a fish farming expert today. The last message should have been sent after seeing Grandma's outburst. It can be seen that the tone is a bit emotional, and there are no more messages after that. I replied to him, "It's not me. My grandma is playing the game." The other side replied instantly, "Good excuse." After my unremitting explanation and Grandma playing the game synchronously over there, Leo finally believed that it was two people who were replying to messages and playing the game. Only Felix seemed to be hit even harder. He didn't know what I explained to Leo, but he really saw Grandma maintaining the fish pond there. In the evening, Leo sent me a screenshot of Felix's moments. On it was Felix's emotional post because of love. "The person I trust the most hurts me the deepest. After this last game, we part forever. From now on, brother seals his heart and will never love again." Underneath Leo's comment, "What's wrong with our young master? Whoa. Are you emo now?" There is also a comment from someone Leo is big brother. "What kind of mischief is this little bastard making again? Posting such a vicissitudes of life remark." Felix replied uniformly, "When you reach my age, you will understand." I couldn't help but laugh. I heard Grandma say, "Oh no, over there. Darling. The CP Grandma tricked for you is applying to cancel the intimate relationship. The kid is throwing a tantrum." I told Grandma it was okay. Then I turned around and sent a message to Leo. "Do you want to bring Felix to my house and have a face-to-face meeting with his real online friend?" Leo acted quickly and replied with a good. In less than 10 minutes, the doorbell rang. I opened the door. Felix looked up at me with his small school bag on his back. "Hello. We come to your house to borrow a bathroom." After Leo explained, I learned that there was a problem with the cables in their area. There was no electricity for a whole night, so they couldn't wash up. Felix faced me with a cold and evasive expression. He didn't even call me woman anymore. Grandma already knew that her game partner was actually a child. She bypassed me and welcomed them all in. "Did you bring pajamas, kid? If not, I have new ones here." Felix completely changed the moment he saw Grandma. He stared at Grandma with a pair of starry eyes and let Grandma lead him to the shower room. Looking cute and innocent, he is much more like a child than when he deliberately pretends to be cool. He was brought up by his grandma. When his grandma passed away the year before last, this kid cried terribly. Now, seeing your grandma must feel in his heart. Leave the problem of the game CP to Grandma to explain. I entertained Leo to sit down and watch TV. I kept changing channels with the remote control and didn't really know what to say. Leo glanced at me sideways and suddenly asked, "Where did you fill in your college application?" From our previous chats, I already knew that he would be a junior when school starts. But I didn't ask about his school because I have a place I want to go. In fact, maintaining the current distance between us is fine. Once the summer vacation is over and I go to study in a different place thousands of miles away, there is basically no possibility. In fact, I am just attracted by Leo's good looks and am also infatuated with the current ambiguity. I am reluctant to directly refuse. I am really worthy of being a slag girl with the same bloodline as Grandma. This is not good. But I won't change. I told him about my first choice. That's the hometown where my mother lived before she passed away. I want to go and have a look. However, my score is just on the line. I don't know if I can get in. Leo's expression darkened for a moment. Without even asking, I knew that his school must be thousands of miles away from my choice. Forget it. It's already very pleasant to have met him this summer vacation. Leave the future to think about later. Just then, Grandma came out with Felix, who had just taken a bath. Felix was as obedient as a little chick, nestled in Grandma's arms and being carried. Leo got up and said that he also wanted to borrow the bathroom to take a bath. I chased after him and reminded him that there are 2 bathrooms at home. Boys should use the one on the right for washing. After reminding him, I heard the sound of running water coming from inside. Suddenly, my steps became heavy and I couldn't move. I have never seen live 8-pack ABS in my life. I have only seen men showing off their ABS through the screen on the internet. Most of them are an eyesore. After standing at the door for a while in a daze, I had a brainwave and ran to the guest room to find a new bath towel. Then I pretended to knock on the bathroom door. Leo, do you need a bath towel? Leo didn't answer. I went to get a set of disposable toothpaste and toothbrush again. Leo, do you want to brush your teeth? Leo's voice came mixed with the sound of water. The door is not locked. If you want to come in, just come in directly, I said coyly. This isn't very good. Leo's voice became louder, with some helplessness. You also know it's not good? Now turn around and go back to the living room and watch your TV. Don't try to take advantage of me without giving me a title. If you don't let me see, then I won't. Pretending to be a chaste and strong man, I turned around and went back to the living room. Grandma was blowing Felix's hair. When she saw me come out, she gave me a look that said she knew what I was doing, perhaps afraid of setting a bad example for the child. She held her tongue and didn't say anything vulgar as she usually did. But this child Felix has a very unique train of thought. He raised his fluffy head that Grandma had blown dry and stared at me with a crooked smile. Woman, are you satisfied with what you just saw? How come even a child can see my thoughts of peeking? I was not convinced and began to slander. Just so. Not satisfied. I need a magnifying glass. After taking a bath, Leo came out and took Felix to say goodbye. Felix held Grandma's hand and cooed in a soft voice. Grandma, can I come to play with you often in the future? I will work harder in the future and take you to a higher level. Grandma gave Felix's face a good rub and said in a voice 100 times more affectionate than when she talked to me. Good boy. You can come whenever you want. Grandma will make delicious food for you. As soon as the door closed, the smile on Grandma's face disappeared in an instant. She earnestly advised me to give up my thoughts about Leo. A man who is no good can't be wanted. I'm still looking forward to having a grandson as lovely as Felix. I scratched my head and gave an awkward smile. I didn't see anything. I was just talking nonsense. Over there. Leo also sent me an emoji when he got home. I am a tough guy. JPG. It must be that Felix told him what I said. When it got late at night, and I was almost asleep, I was suddenly awakened by a call from Leo. Fiona. Come downstairs. What's the matter? His tone is so serious and he even called me by my full name. Since I wasn't asleep yet, and was afraid of waking up Grandma, I went out quietly. At this time, there was no one in the downstairs lobby except Leo. As I approached, before I could even ask him what was wrong with him in the middle of the night, I was pulled into his arms with great force. Leo reached out and took my hand that was pushing against his chest and led it to his waist. Feel my abs. Are they firm? Are they hard? Could it be that he was so angry that he couldn't sleep in the middle of the night and came to me to prove himself because of my words that question his male dignity? Is this the damn competitive spirit of men? Then I won't be polite. Smelling the familiar scent of body wash on Leo, I was actually a little shy. But I still followed my thoughts and traced along the lines of his abs and poked them. Leo let out a hiss. He took the initiative to back away and keep a distance from me, covering his stomach and bending over. He accused me of not cutting my nails and poking him painfully, then turned around and ran away. Before I could react, he had already disappeared. Really? I looked down at my rather long nails. I was a little doubtful. With such delicate skin, is he really a sports student? Moreover, I poked him through his clothes. At the end of August, there were many rainy days. Taking advantage of the absence of the sun, I went shopping on the street to prepare things to bring to school. When I said I wanted to go shopping, Leo offered to be my bag carrier. The weather is so changeable. It was still drizzling in the morning, but the sun came out at noon and got stronger and stronger. When Leo went to find a supermarket to buy a sun umbrella and water, I was so uncomfortable from the heat that I walked directly inside the road and hid in a cool alley. When I was pulled by a strange woman, I was completely confused. Her blood-red painted mouth open and closed. saying things like girls should get a makeover and their image and temperament will be immediately enhanced. I didn't hear a single word. She was very strong and held my arm so tightly that it hurt. I struggled a few times but couldn't break free. It wasn't the peak time for pedestrians at noon. After a few minutes here, no one passed by. Before long, a burly man came down the stairs behind the woman, bare-chested, with two flowery arms shining with the oil from sweat. Under the gaze of these two people who clearly didn't look like good people, I was half pushed and pulled up to a very shabby barbershop on the second floor. There were actually two short and thin guys sitting inside. The woman didn't ask me what kind of style I wanted. She just started playing with my hair and asked me, pointing at the obviously inferior products beside me, "Little girl, do you like French imports or German specialties? Guaranteed to make your hair shiny and bright." I didn't want to choose any of them. I'm still young. I don't want to be made bald. When the eldest sister was rubbing her hands together and about to start on my hair, Leo's loud voice calling my name came. "Fiona, where are you?" Fortunately, this was by the window on the second floor. I rushed to the window in one stride and shouted, "I'm here." Leo came up and was blocked at the door by the muscular man and two short and thin guys. He looked over the people in front and said to me, "Come here and stand behind me." The ignored three people looked at each other. The muscular man said, "Little brother, we are doing business here. Wait until your friend finishes her hair and then leave." I won't do it. With Leo here, I had the confidence to refuse. I pushed aside the eldest sister and wanted to hide behind him. One of the guys reached out to pull me. Leo directly stepped forward and pulled me into his arms, dodging the hand reaching towards me. Only then did I notice that he was still holding a wooden stick in his hand. It should have been brought up from downstairs conveniently. He took off his shirt and handed it to me, wearing only a vest and showing his strong arms. He stood tall and blocked in front of me, and said to the people in front, "Let me say the polite words first. If you dare to stop us again, I will definitely smash your shop." After saying that, Leo showed the record of dialing 110 on his mobile phone and waved it in front of several people. The eldest sister at the back quickly came up to smooth things over and said that they were doing business properly. Of course, they wouldn't force it if the little girl didn't want to. It wasn't until Leo pulled me out of the alley that he threw away the wooden stick. He walked with big strides. I could only trot half a step behind him. My temper also came up. I said to him, "Are you angry with me? Let go of me, and I'll walk by myself." My hand was firmly held by him. No matter how hard I struggled, I couldn't break free. Seeing that I struggled harder and harder, Leo finally stopped and turned to look at me. His face was as if I owed him 2 million. "I find that you are very brave. Do you know who those people are and you dare to follow them?" My stubborn temper came up, and I directly replied, "Who wants you to care?" Leo was amused by my words. "That man's arm is thicker than your waist. If I don't care about you, can you walk out of there safely today?" I was stubborn. Everyone has a different constitution. Although I look thin, maybe I can knock him down with 2 punches. This boast became more and more outrageous, and I couldn't even make it up anymore. Leo pointed to his chest and said, "Different constitutions, right? Push me and try. Let me see what kind of lethality you have." At this time, I was in a bad mood. How could I tolerate this provocation? I gritted my teeth and pushed him hard. Leo exaggerated and staggered back a few steps, squatted on the ground with his buttocks, and then raised his head and gave me a thumbs up. "Sure enough. You have a good constitution. Then, Big Brother Jong, don't run far away secretly by yourself in the future. This weak little brother, need you to protect me closely." Since he pulled me along with a sullen face, the emotions of fear and grievance intertwined. I didn't feel like crying, now seeing him using such a clumsy performance to amuse me. His tone softened and followed me. Instead, I couldn't control the soreness in my nose. Tears came down unexpectedly. Leo flipped over and stood up. His hand moved but he didn't know what to do. He stood in front of me at a loss. I'm sorry. I brought the habit of educating Felix to you. As an adult, you actually don't need me to pretend to be angry to make you realize the seriousness of the matter. I lowered my head and wiped my tears, feeling that crying like this was very embarrassing. Leo was silent for a while. Then he took a step forward and gently hugged me. It's my fault for scaring you. I didn't bring any paper. Wipe your snot and tears on my shoulder. I unceremoniously grabbed Leo's just worn shirt sleeve and wiped it on my face randomly. After sniffing, I praised him. Leo, you are so kind. Fiona, please don't give me the good person card. Throughout the whole summer vacation, Leo and I were in an ambiguous state of not quite being lovers. Leo pursued me very seriously. But until the start of school was about to arrive, I still didn't agree. Not accepting nor rejecting. I seemed like a bad woman in a TV drama. On the day I was dragging my luggage and preparing to leave home for college, my dad also came to see me off with my grandma. I didn't tell Leo about my plan to leave for another province 3 days in advance. I don't know what his reaction will be when he asks me to go out to explore stores and eat delicious food tomorrow, but finds out that I am already in another distant city. After passing through the security checkpoint and waving goodbye to my dad and grandma, I pushed my suitcase and walked towards the waiting hall. Who would have thought that just when I pushed it halfway, I was stopped? Why is Leo here? I looked around and confirmed that this area was the boarding gate for my flight. I've been waiting for you for 2 years. Fiona. What incomprehensible words was he saying? I touched my nose and smiled guiltily. I waved my hand at him in a small arc. Hi. Are you also going to school today? Leo didn't respond to my cute behavior. He dragged my suitcase and walked towards the place with seats. I chased after him and started another topic. Are you on the same flight as me? This man probably can't extricate himself because he has deep feelings for me. Did he specially buy a ticket for the same flight to see me off? Don't say it. Seeing him being so attentive to me, while enjoying it, I also feel a little guilty. Stop imagining all kinds of nonsense again. Leo reached out and ruffled my hair. After ruffling it, he helped me smooth it out again. It could be seen that he was a little emotional about my behavior of planning to leave without saying goodbye. But not much. He followed me all the way to board the plane, get off the plane, and enter the university gate by car. Leo took care of me the whole way. I didn't feel like I was going to study in a different place alone. Instead, it was as if I was going on an outing outside with him. Okay, Leo. It's almost enough to send me here. Leo glanced at me sideways. Are you polite? After entering this gate, you have to call me senior from now on. What? I don't believe there could be such a coincidence in the world. With so many universities in the country, would Leo happen to be in the same school as me? After much questioning from me, he finally relented and explained to me. 2 years ago on to NG Ellen Street, he encountered me by chance and fell in love at first sight. He couldn't resist following me for a while. But because I received a phone call midway, I started crying as I walked. He didn't dare to approach me rashly. I remember that day. An ordinary afternoon, when I was about to go home after strolling around, I received a call from my sister informing me of my mother's passing. At that time, after my parents divorced, I hadn't seen my mother for 10 years. I repeatedly confirmed with my sister and couldn't believe it. I cried and said that I had originally planned to apply for S University in 2 years and go to the city where my mother was to study so that I could see her. However, she didn't wait for me. She abandoned me again. Leo said, I heard you say on the phone that you wanted to apply here. So I changed my college choice as soon as I got home. He also said that I am the first girl he has ever been attracted to since he was a child. In those 2 years, the scene of seeing me for the first time often reappeared in his dreams. No wonder when he saw me at the airport, he would say that he had been waiting for me for 2 years. According to his plan, we would get to know each other in college. Under his gradual pursuit, we would become a perfect couple. Who would have thought that reality would be so magical? Grandma and Felix created an opportunity for us to know each other earlier. When Leo first saw the photo that Felix was showing off, he recognized that I was the person he had been looking for a long time. But Grandma's tone was so mature that he thought the person on the other end was a middle-aged man using a fake photo to deceive a child. So he stopped Felix from going out, and came to meet me himself. Well, in places I can't see, Leo has already taken 99.5 steps towards me. For this last half step, I can take the initiative. At this second when my heart starts beating faster, I reach out my hand to Leo. So, senior or boyfriend? You choose one. My hand is immediately firmly held by another big hand. Fiona. Once this hand is held, it can't be let go again. After being in a relationship with Leo for 2 years, our relationship has always been very good. Mainly because this man is careful, gentle, and outstanding in ability. There is nothing wrong with him in every aspect. From the beginning, Grandma felt sorry for me. She thought I was trapped by Leo before I had seen the colorful world. She would ask me from time to time when I planned to change boyfriends and have some fun. But now, she has accepted Leo as half a grandson. When I was a sophomore, I met Leo's father for the first time. He has a stern brow, and looks a bit serious. Leo asked me to address him. Looking at that face similar to Leo's and not looking old at all, I couldn't utter the word uncle, that was stuck in my throat. During the meal, Uncle Wo turned to look at me, and took the initiative to start a conversation. Usually persuade the stubborn boy more to come and help me with my work. It's more promising than suffering in a small company. I buried my hat in my food and didn't dare to answer yes. Leo just graduated and started working. Because he didn't want to be too far away from me, he found a small company near the school. Leo put a piece of braised pork into his dad's bowl and spoke without hesitation. Don't use your elder status to make things difficult for her. Is it a problem for me to go out and endure some hardships when I'm young? Uncle Wo still had that expressionless and unperturbed look. He slowly took out the braised pork in his bowl and put it on an empty plate. I don't eat fat meat. Have you forgotten again? It seems that he is not as serious as he looks. He has a good temper. Feeling safe, I dared to speak again. I pushed the plate of light-tasting vegetables in front of me towards Uncle Wo and said, "Try this, bro." Oh no. Uncle. The situation was momentarily quiet. It's not my fault for slipping up. It's all because Uncle Wo looks so young. I cast a pleading look at Leo. He curved his mouth and was about to speak. Suddenly, the door of the private room was forcefully pushed open with a bang. A beautiful woman with big waves in her hair, wearing a white suit, and with delicate and beautiful makeup rushed in. The beautiful woman threw the bag in her hand and accurately hit Uncle Wo. The bag rolled to the ground after the attack. I took a closer look. Wow. That bag is a brand that a rich second-generation roommate of mine always talks about but is reluctant to buy. It seems to cost 6 figures or more. The beauty didn't feel sorry for the 6-figure bag lying on the floor at all. She pointed at Uncle Wo and started questioning. I said, "Why did you cancel all the meetings and go on a business trip to another place? So it turns out you came today to young girl?" As she spoke, the beautiful woman started covering her face and crying. The calm expression on Uncle Wo's face disappeared. Helplessly and indulgented, he took a tissue from the table and got up to hand it to the beautiful woman. By the way, he chased away the waiters who heard the commotion and came to watch. I asked Leo with my eyes what was going on. Leo reached out and touched my head but didn't say anything. He got up and walked towards Uncle Wo and the beautiful woman. In an unfriendly tone, he said, "Wo Feng Ming, can you control this crazy woman? This is the first time I bring my girlfriend to meet my parents. Why is she making a scene here?" The beautiful woman looked up in an instant. There was no trace of tears on her face. She glanced at Uncle Wo reproachfully. "Why didn't you tell me such a great happy event? So the girl is your son's girlfriend? She's really beautiful." Uncle Wo didn't speak. Leo snorted first. "Don't take advantage of me. Wait until you enter the Wo family first before mentioning meeting the parents and calling you that." After saying that, Leo turned around and took my hand. wanting to take me away from this embarrassing situation. As I passed by the beautiful woman, I smelled a familiar fragrance. The perfume smell that my mother used to love the most. I couldn't help but turn my head and take another look at the beautiful woman. This person looks familiar. I took a closer look again. While I was looking at the beautiful woman, she was also frowning, her eyes wandering repeatedly on my face. This person seems to be my elder sister of different fathers, and the same mother whom I haven't seen for 10 years. At the same time, the beautiful woman also asked me, "Are you Little Trumpet?" According to my sister, when I was a child, I loved to cry. And the sound of crying was so loud as if it had been amplified by a trumpet. So, during the years we lived together, she always called me Little Trumpet. I looked at my sister who is in her prime and as beautiful as a flower. And then at Uncle Wo. Suddenly, I felt that he didn't seem so young. In fact, there are some fine lines at the corners of his eyes. Maybe he frowns too much usually. And there are also thin lines between his eyebrows. In short, from the perspective of my family members, if Uncle Wo is to be with my sister, he is still a bit lacking. The age difference is a bit large. And if they get together, won't our seniority be all messed up? I unilaterally disagree to this marriage. After I called my sister, Leo said in disbelief, "You mean this crazy woman who has been chasing after my dad for 4 or 5 years is the sister you mentioned who you haven't seen for many years?" What? I was even more shocked than Leo. It's actually my sister who is pursuing Uncle Wo? That day, the situation was a bit awkward. Leo and I left first, and left the place to Uncle Wo and my sister. On the way back together, Leo explained their relationship to me. My sister met Uncle Wo in a car accident, and then fell in love at first sight and began to pester him. From Leo's words, it can be heard that his impression of my sister is not very good. That woman doesn't know what's in her head. When she can't move my dad, she comes to me and goes crazy. She threw me a bank card and said to give me 10 million yuan, and let me leave my dad and become independent. This kind of scene usually only happens between evil mothers-in-law and Cinderella. What's the deal with buying off the father-son relationship with money? Thinking about the scene at that time, Leo was only 17 years old 5 years ago. Facing this kind of scene, he must have been a bit at a loss. No, I wasn't at a loss. I agreed immediately. Leo had no nostalgia for Uncle Wo at all. He took the application for severing the relationship, and went to find Uncle Wo to sign it. Uncle Wo tore the paper in half, moved his hands a few times, picked up the baseball bat beside him, and gave Leo a severe beating. In the end, Leo was hospitalized for half a month due to a leg injury. The 10 million yuan he got from my sister was also taken back by Uncle Wo and returned. After hearing this past event, I laughed until tears came out. No wonder Leo has that kind of attitude towards my sister. 2 days later, my sister took the initiative to come to me and asked me to meet outside school. As soon as I entered and saw her, I rushed over and hugged her, and rubbed her slender waist with my hand. "Sister, long time no see. You have become a great beauty now." After saying this sentence, my tears almost fell. We have been separated for so long. I have always missed her and Mom. Before I could continue to be sentimental and reminisce, my sister pushed me away and handed me a bank card with 2 index fingers. "Here's 2 million yuan. Break up with Leo." Leo is right. This person really seems like a crazy woman. Why? Just because I want to be with Wo Fengming, I said angrily. Why give Leo 10 million yuan and only give me 2 million yuan? My sister made a fierce expression as she did when she was a child. What's so valuable about kids playing house? Call Wo Fengming immediately and tell him that you and his son have broken up. I won't. The scene of sisters recognizing each other after a long separation has turned into a bad woman trying to break up a loving couple. We can't talk anymore. I picked up my bag and turned around and left. My sister pulled me from behind. Her expression sincere. "Please. For my sake. This old man Wo Fengming has been rejecting me because of the age gap. If you and Leo's relationship is added, I will never wait for him to agree to be with me in this lifetime. Her love is love. And is my love supposed to be rubbish that can be thrown away at will? After so many years of not seeing her, she is still as selfish as I remember. When Mom and Dad divorced, in order to prevent Mom from taking me with her, she deliberately injured her leg and pretended to be pitiful, and made Mom promise to take only her. When I went to the hospital to see her after school, I heard it even outside the door. I sneered and deliberately taunted. At worst, we can address each other differently. Leo calls you Mom, and you call him brother-in-law. Seeing that I was unyielding, my sister didn't say anything and left after leaving the card. After putting the card back, I began to tremble belatedly. 2 million yuan. In my life so far, I have never seen such a large sum of money. When Leo got off work and I went to find him, after hearing about the origin of the card, he broke it in half. What's this petty gain? Keep me. I can earn countless 2 million yuan for you. Saying that, he took out a card of his own from his pocket. Here's my 2 months' salary. 0.5% of 2 million yuan. Isn't it in your hands now? When winter vacation came in my junior year, Leo and I started a short-distance long-distance relationship and went back to reunite with our families respectively. My dad also brought grandma over from the neighboring city. The 3 generations got together to have New Year's Eve dinner. At the dinner table, I advised my dad, "You're so old. When you meet a suitable aunt or auntie, you should consider it." My dad picked up chopsticks and took turns serving dishes and removing fish bones and peeling shrimps for me and my grandma. He was very busy. Hearing me talk to him in the tone of an elder urging marriage, he stuffed a freshly peeled shrimp into my mouth. Little kids, don't worry about adults' affairs. After the meal, Grandma asked me about the progress of my relationship with Leo. I was taking out my phone to send a message to Leo. Hearing this, I said happily, "Grandma, I think Leo and I will go from school uniforms to wedding dresses." I leaned in Grandma's arms and felt her hand gently stroking my head. "Seeing you happy, Grandma is relieved." While chatting, I suddenly received a strange friend request. The profile picture is a photo of my sister herself. I clicked to agree, and then enlarged my sister's profile picture and showed it to Grandma. "This is Sister Lin Lin. She's even more beautiful than in this photo now." Grandma bowed her head and looked at it carefully, saying it's good repeatedly. "That child has had a hard time too." I didn't see that she had a hard time at all. After my mother passed away, all the inheritance was left to her. A card with 10 million yuan was given just like that. Beautiful, rich, and with few troubles. Is this the peak of life? A notification tone rang. Under my grandma's gaze, I clicked it open. My sister sent a photo. Leo and a girl were sitting side by side. He was looking down at her sideways. Their eyes met and they smiled at each other. Immediately after, my sister's message came. Leo and his fiancée were engaged when they were children. That vicious woman, Flynn. My first reaction was that she was deliberately deceiving me. I typed quickly in reply, "Come on. Do you think I believe your active sowing discord?" There was no reply from the other side for a long time. My hands trembled as I repeatedly enlarged that photo. The girl had curved eyebrows and a sweet expression. Leo's corner of the mouth was slightly upturned. In fact, he is a cold and aloof person on the outside. After being together for so long, this is the first time he has smiled so gently at someone other than me. And they are sitting so close. Grandma witnessed the whole process and comforted me with words she learned online. "We don't want a man who already has someone. Bye-bye and move on. The next one will be better." I can't believe Flynn's words so blindly. But a girl who can appear at Leo's family's dining table on New Year's, even sit shoulder to shoulder with him, can't be completely unrelated to him. I clicked on the chat box with Leo and wanted to ask clearly. At this time, Flynn's new message arrived. "If I'm lying, Wo Fengming will be hit by a car and die as soon as he goes out tomorrow. She loves Uncle Wo so much and still dares to make such a vicious oath. Following this message, she sent a new photo. Leo seemed to notice that she was taking pictures secretly. He frowned and looked at the camera, with one hand stretched forward to block and the other hand covering the girl's face beside him for concealment. Such an obviously protective and intimate action. I have to believe it at least a little. At first, my eyes were a little hot. When I really saw the second photo, I calmed down instead. If it's true, then I am the one who intruded as a third party. For 2.5 years, Leo has been so obedient to me. There has never been a quarrel or disagreement. If it's said that he was pretending, I don't believe a person can pretend so well. But in the photo, he is equally good to another girl. Grandma thoughtfully left me personal space. Before entering the room, she smiled and said in a tone of enjoying the drama without fear of trouble, "Dear, when you decide to be attracted to only one person, it means you will suffer from love. This internet-addicted elderly person surfs the internet intensely with 5G every day and understands all the memes." At 12 o'clock on New Year's Eve, Leo still called me on time without receiving my reply to his message. If I pick up, he will say to me in a tone with a smile like in the past 2 years, "Baby, Happy New Year." I didn't answer and watched the phone keep ringing. Encountering this situation for the first time, I didn't know what to do. Subconsciously, I just wanted to escape. Before Leo's second call came, I quickly blocked him. I couldn't tell whether I was sad or disappointed. Each photo sent by Flynn was stinging my eyes. Looking at it once made me uncomfortable once. After thinking about it, I blocked her too. I was sleepless all night, and didn't fall asleep in a daze until it was almost dawn. Even in my dreams, it was restless, full of fragments of getting along with Leo. His nervous confession under the shade of a tree. Him carrying me back to the dormitory from the basketball court. He took more than 10 elective credits just to accompany me to an elective course. Every time he looked at me, his eyes were clearly full of love. How could such kindness be shared from someone else? I ask myself that I can't love two people at the same time like this. In my dream, my phone was broken and he couldn't contact me. He stood downstairs in the dormitory and shouted my name loudly to confirm that I was safe in the dormitory. "Fiona. Fiona." Did this person amplify his voice with a loudspeaker? It's a bit noisy to my ears. I turned over unhappily and opened my eyes with difficulty and looked around. I saw the bright daylight. The voice beside my ear became clearer and clearer. It's not a dream. The voice calling my name really came from downstairs. I got up and ran to the window and looked down. Leo was standing next to the flower bed downstairs, holding a big loudspeaker. I recognized this loudspeaker. It's Uncle Wayne, the guard. It's a good helper for playing community announcements. At this time, around Leo, a group of ants were pointing and making comments. In such an embarrassing scene, I didn't want to go down and face it at all. I looked around when I came out of the room but didn't see Grandma and Dad. They should have gone out to visit acquaintances. No one can help me drive away Leo. This annoying thing. There was no choice. I could only take him out of the blacklist and call him to let him come up by himself. When Leo entered the door, he brought a chill with him. Even his hair was damp. I don't know how long he had been calling me downstairs. That crazy woman Flynn. Did she say something nonsense to you? Leo took off his cold coat and casually threw it on the carpet. Taking a step forward, he quickly hugged me into his arms. A series of actions were so fast that I couldn't react. Feeling the strength of his hands on my waist getting tighter and tighter, I unhappily reached out to push him away. He didn't give me a chance. The hand I reached out was forcibly held by him and our fingers intertwined. "Don't push me away. No matter what misunderstanding you have, I can explain. Let's make it clear then." I no longer pushed him away, keeping the posture of being held in Leo's arms. I said sullenly, "I saw the intimate photo of you and that girl. You have a fiancé. You jerk." Leo didn't even need reaction time and immediately guessed who I was talking about. "You mean Chen Jowie Jowie? That's my younger sister born from my mother's extramarital affair behind my father's back." Ah? The amount of information is so huge and it seems quite shocking. I was originally in a state of grievance and distress, on the verge of crying. But his words directly choked back my tears. The feeling of being loved wholeheartedly by a person is very obvious. I just knew that Leo's feelings for me couldn't be false. With just one sentence from him, before he even started to explain, I already believed him. That bad woman Flynn will never get out of my blacklist in this lifetime. At this moment, the curiosity to eat melons prevailed. I started to pour hot water and bring pastries for Leo and asked him to sit on the sofa and talk slowly. It turned out that his parents had a business marriage and had no feelings for each other. His father was busy with company affairs and often flew around the world and was rarely at home. His mother had been alone for too long and secretly had an affair with his father's friend. When she found out that she had an affair and had a child, his mother put on a heartbroken act, accusing his father of being too indifferent for not caring about the family and saying that she couldn't stand the cold violence in the family and wanted a divorce. After the divorce, taking advantage of the early stage of pregnancy when it wasn't obvious, his mother went abroad to have the baby and give birth. The fact that Chen Jowie is my sister is only known to my father. All these years, he still feels guilty for focusing on his career and neglecting my mother when he was young. In this whole incident, the person who was hurt the most was actually Uncle Wo. Now the problem is big. How could you have a baby engagement with your sister? Leo sighed. At that time, I was young and had no say. My father decided on his own to make an engagement with Uncle Chen. Uncle Chen was afraid that he would find out about the green hat on his head and could only vaguely agree. Sympathy welled up in my heart. Uncle Wo is really not easy. Leo waved his hand and said inferently. What's not easy? Chen Jowie, like me, is the result of him and my mother. What kind of fallacy is this? I am the result of their marriage alliance. Chen Jowie is the result of their affair. It makes some sense, but not a lot. Leo also said that after seeing me, Uncle Wo expressed his support for Leo to fall in love freely and regarded the engagement as a verbal joke among adults. After everything was made clear, he started to pinch my face. This man was holding back his anger and was going to settle scores with me after the autumn. You've got a longer temper. After listening to a few nonsense words from outsiders, you learned to block and ignore people? This time, I was in the wrong. I sincerely apologized. When I took the initiative to kiss Leo, he put one hand on my head and took out a ring from his pocket with the other hand and put it on my middle finger without asking. I want to privately engage with you first. The day Flynn came to find me was a cloudy and rainy day. She didn't bring an umbrella, and was somewhat disheveled from being rained on. After many years, she stepped into this home again and saw Dad and Grandma. Grandma was in tears and kept hugging her and repeating, "Good child. Good child." I rolled my eyes in my heart. This person is not good at all. She has been bad since childhood. I took Flynn to my room and gave her my pajamas to change into. She really acted as if she were back in her own home. She lay down peacefully on my bed and patted the place next to her. Lie down. Let's talk. Actually, I could see that she was not in a good state. The whole person had no vitality. Her eyes were red. There were dark circles under her eyes. And her face was pale and bloodless. Thinking of when I was a child. If I was too playful to do my homework, she would do it for me. If I was too sleepy to get up, she would ask for leave for me from the teacher. When I got into a conflict and was injured at school, it was also her who stood up for me and fought and carried me home. Although I had already softened, I still pretended to be resentful and lay down angrily. I also deliberately pushed her towards the edge of the bed. But unexpectedly, she turned around and hugged me in her arms. My face was buried into soft mounds. It was a bit strange. And a bit fragrant. More importantly, it was hard to breathe. I struggled to show my head. Flynn looked at my embarrassed appearance and smiled and reached out to fix my messy hair. I haven't seen Mo Fengming for more than half a month. It must be that Leo was angry about what I did and went to tell his father. In fact, it was not just telling on him. Leo also spent money to find a bunch of women to approach his father. I remember his exact words were that if Flynn wanted to mess up our relationship, then he would simply go all out and completely cut off the chance for his father and her to develop. Knowing that she must have a request to come to the door, I rolled my eyes and said, "Anyway, you and Uncle Wo are not suitable. You are only 30 years old. And Uncle Wo is almost 50. She chuckled softly and said, "Age has never been a barrier to love. Back then, my mother was 12 years older than your father. She was also divorced and had me as a burden." I couldn't refute this example. Before I could speak, Flynn sighed again and said, "You are a child who grew up in love. You have grandma and dad accompanying you. Actually, I have always envied you." She also said that when our parents divorced, she deliberately broke her leg and took the opportunity to ask my mother to take only her away for my own good. Our mother is an independent and strong woman, even to her own children. There is not much maternal warmth. Instead, there are more strict demands. You were so obedient when you were a child. Like an ignorant little laze being silly and happy. How could I bear to let you follow in my old path? Be controlled and suppressed by that woman and live an unsatisfying life. Indeed, if it were me who is now sensible, I would also be more willing to live with Dad. Very well. I was somewhat touched by what was said. Flynn then abruptly changed the subject and said that she had a father who died early and a controlling mother. Later, even her mother left. She holds to huge inheritances. She has nothing but money and lives a life lacking love and loneliness. So when Uncle Wo blocked drinks for her out of gentleman lines at a business gathering, she thought this person was kind to her and began to chase him crazily. I so desperately want to have someone who loves me. In these years, chasing Wo Fengming, I have done many embarrassing and foolish things. Tears flowed down her face to my shoulder. I believe that what she is telling me at this moment is all true. But you shouldn't use my relationship with Leo to pave the way for you. We have been together for almost 3 years. This is not child's play. Flynn apologized in tears, looking at her red-rimmed eyes and nose. I remembered the last time I saw her cry, like this was the day her mother took her and left home. I admit that I can't bear to blame her or be angry with her. I took the initiative to find Leo and asked him to say some good words about my sister to Uncle Wo. Leo was exasperated. Even through the phone, I could tell that he was gritting his teeth and saying that I was bewitched by a bad woman again. This man is getting better and better at making conditions in front of me. He took the opportunity to propose that I agreed to get engaged after graduation. Otherwise, he won't speak up for Flynn in front of his father. I have no intention of marrying anyone else except him. Moreover, even if we get married, we can still get divorced, let alone engaged. I agreed directly. Leo let out a happy laugh on the other end and asked me, "Do you still remember the jade pendant I gave you when we first met?" Of course I remember. I tried to return the jade pendant several times, but Leo refused with various excuses. Unknowingly, I have been wearing it around my neck all this time. Leo said, "That was given to me by my mother. She said that the moon-shaped jade pendant has magic and can connect marriages. She told me to give this to my wife in the future. Now, I am wearing the ring he gave me and on my neck is the token for the daughter-in-law given by his mother. I am truly trapped." In the year I graduated, Leo was busy with his own business venture. We didn't meet every day like before, but he still took time to look at venues with me, try on dresses, and do a series of engagement preparations, in order to personally design the style of our engagement ring. After finishing his work, he was still working overtime to draw blueprints and stayed up late for several nights. When I went to see him, I found that there was a layer of stubble on his face and he didn't even have time to shave. Now it was my turn to show off. I volunteered to shave for him. When I carefully finished shaving and was wiping his face, Leo held my hand holding the wet tissue. At this moment, he was lying on his back in my lap. The light lit up his eyes, and the unrestrained and passionate love was unmasked. After getting engaged, move in and live with me. I paused. Living together. Wouldn't that mean? Yellow information started flashing in my mind. After being in a relationship for so many years, Leo has always been very polite. We haven't done anything other than kissing and hugging. Before I could think of an answer, Leo raised his hand and pinched my face, snorted and laughed. Why are you blushing so much? What are you secretly thinking about? I slapped him on the body with one hand and was somewhat embarrassed and angry. Your thoughts are filthy. Leo covered the place where I hit him and smiled meaningfully, looking for an excuse to pat my chest muscles. Enduring my embarrassment, I pretended not to care and said, "What's wrong with patting your chest muscles? Haven't I touched you enough?" One of my interests when being with Leo is counting his abdominal muscles. But it's all done through clothes. To be honest, I have been wanting to see him without clothes for a long time. But Leo is more reserved than I thought. After the joke, he seriously told me that before giving me a proper wedding, he wouldn't do things that can only be done with a license. Let me give him 1 more year to earn enough money for our grand wedding and a honeymoon around the world. Then we will get married. I asked him, what if it's not enough after a year? Leo waved his hand and said, then I can only sell myself to my dad and become an heir who is busy with work day and night. Originally, he wanted to wait for Felix to grow up and let Felix take over the family business. He himself wanted to be an idle person who just sits and enjoys dividends. For the engagement banquet, we only invited relatives from both sides. Felix also came. In these years, he has followed his parents to study in other cities and we haven't seen each other for a long time. The cool little boy has now become a high, cold, handsome teenager. He has shoulder-length, medium-length hair, a small bun at the back of his head, and a small tuft of broken hair on each sideburn. Noticing my gaze, Felix glanced at me and then turned away. His skin is very white, although his face expression is cold and indifferent. His ears are visibly turning red. He is probably embarrassed thinking of the embarrassing things he did in front of me when he was a child. I pulled Leo's sleeve and discussed with him in a low voice. Felix has changed so much and is getting more and more handsome. Leo rolled his eyes in Felix's direction and said disapprovingly, this kid loves to role play like in TV dramas. Recently, it seems to be some kind of manga-inspired style. Just an on mainstream. I have to say that his appearance is really handsome. When it came to the of holding hands and offering tea to the elders, Leo noticed my frequent small actions looking at Felix. He secretly pinched my hand in dissatisfaction and whispered, be more attentive, baby. What's so good about a show-off kid? The person you are going to marry is me. Offer tea, receive red envelopes, and exchange rings. The whole process is not easy. Walking around in high heels is a bit tiring. The host is stringing words together. I am going to find an inconspicuous place and sit down and rest for a while. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Flynn, who had been absent all along, appeared. She was wearing a white wedding dress and had a bright and beautiful bridal makeup on her face. Looking at her walking towards the stage with a stern face and no expression, I knew it was bad. But it was too late to stop her. As soon as Flynn came in, she went on stage and snatched the microphone from the host. Her voice resounded throughout the venue through the microphone. Liu Fengming, this is the last time I ask you. Will you marry me? You are old and incapable. I am beautiful and young. Where exactly am I not good enough for you? Your son is about to get married. Why are you still being a single old ox? Give me a definite answer today. If you don't agree, I will never pester you again. A great drama unfolded, and the whole audience was in an uproar. Leo's face was gloomy. I heard him calling the hotel security. On Uncle Wo's always calm and smiling face. First there was shock, then helplessness. The change in his expression was really obvious. As expected of an old man who has eaten decades more meals. In front of so many relatives, Flynn loudly said that he was old and incapable. He didn't get angry. Instead, he cast an apologetic look at me and Leo at the first opportunity. Then, He slowly stepped onto the stage, picked up Flynn's long trailing skirt and held it in his arms. Without changing his expression, he led the person and left without looking back. After such an embarrassing thing happened, the guests all found excuses to slip away. Looking at the expressions on everyone's faces, pretending to be calm but unable to hold back their smirks, I guessed that they would definitely go back and gossip and discuss today's events crazily. I also couldn't hold back from discussing this matter on the way home with Leo. As a result, Leo said that this was planned by him and Flynn. Leo could agree to let her create such a scene at the end of our engagement party, because Flynn took out my childhood photo album and negotiated with him. My dad and grandma had been looking for it for many years. The photo album that they thought was accidentally lost during the move was actually secretly taken away by Flynn. Moreover, over the years, seeing his father always looking like he had everything under control and unruffled, Leo also kind of wanted to see what expression his father would have in the face of such a marriage proposal scene. Leo confirmed with me. Did I act like I didn't know and was angry about being disrupted? Was it realistic? Yes. How could it not be? At one point, I even thought he was going to rush onto the stage and have a decisive battle with Flynn. Great actor. I gave Leo a thumbs up. He reached out and held my hand, shook it and said, "Aren't you angry?" I specially told her to appear after the engagement ceremony ended, just in case she was unclear-headed and ruined our good day. I shook my head. There was nothing to be angry about. Moreover, I can't hold things in. It makes sense that they didn't tell me in advance. Now I just feel sorry for Uncle Woe. He was jointly tricked by a woman and his son. I wonder if my sister can win the old man today after being so desperate. When we returned to the small house that Leo bought here, before entering the door, Leo stopped me and took out a sign from the bag he had been carrying. Vaguely visible were colorful colors. I thought it was an engagement gift he had prepared for me. I consciously reached out to take it, and still said insincerely, "Oh, it's not a big day. Why prepare a gift for me specially?" Leo glanced at me, and his action of taking out the sign paused. My outstretched hand was left hanging there. The situation was a bit awkward for a moment. After reacting for a while, I took it back and scratched my head. It's not a gift, right? Leo chuckled. Don't be impatient. The gift is at home. This isn't it. Saying that, he took out the sign and handed it to me. I took it and looked. It was a custom-made wooden door sign. There were 2 cartoon figures drawn on it. The little figure in a white dress and long hair was being held by the little figure in black with short hair. They were running in a grassy field full of flowers and plants. In the direction they were running, there were flowery letters engraved, "Future Home." I recognized that the clothes on the little figures were the clothes that Leo and I were wearing on the day we first met. Leo held my hand and hung this door sign on the door together. With a click, I felt as if I had pressed the switch button in the game. Our relationship, from this moment on, switched from ordinary lovers to closer lovers. Leo leaned over from behind and sighed softly in my ear. "Fiona, can you congratulate me?" With my ear warmed by the hot air he exhaled, I felt a bit weak in the legs and dizzy. Confused, I asked, "Congratulations for what?" Leo leaned closer to me and deliberately said in a breathy voice, "Congratulations to me for getting what I wanted today." This man is so charming. I was so flustered that my face flushed. I turned my head and looked up at him, leaned closer to his slightly parted lips. We were kissing passionately outside the door where people in the elevator could come up at any time and neighbors could open the door at any time. Leo pressed one hand on the back of my head and used the other hand to grope for the password lock behind me. After blindly pressing a few times, as soon as the door opened, he pushed me inside, closed the door, and pressed me against the back of the door. Without the sense of crisis of being seen at any time, he no longer let me act recklessly and took the initiative. I was forced to follow his rhythm. With our lips and tongues intertwined and our breaths exchanged, he slightly pulled back to let me catch my breath. Finally, I had the chance to say the words that I had been holding back all the way. I really love you so much. Leo. He was the one who took the initiative to confess when we got together. He took care of everything when we were in love. I had never expressed my feelings for him in such straightforward words. Originally, I planned to take the host's microphone when we exchanged drinks and make a passionate confession in front of relatives and move him to tears. But I had the intention but not the courage. In front of so many elders. I was really timid. It doesn't matter. This love is originally for him alone. Now, in our little home that belongs to us, I say it to him alone. The scene is just right. The atmosphere is just right. And the person is also the most right one. Everything is just right.